Good afternoon, everyone. This is Scott here in Nebraska, and we're going to try to make a harvest video for our Texas cousins, trying to show a little bit of what goes on with harvesting soybeans and corn, and hope we can make some sense out of this. I'm going to make my target audience Rodney's grandchildren. So when I talk about your grandfather, of course that would be Rodney, or your great-grandfather would be Harrison or G.H. So I'm currently standing on the corner of the farm that your great-grandfather bought in 1942, where your grandfather ultimately grew up and where he lived when he graduated from high school. I'm up by the highway in the corner of the farm at the northeast corner. There's the highway right over here. You hear the traffic going by. And if we look over here, you can see the tops of the trees. There we go. By my finger, the tops of the trees are by the house. And the opposite corner of the farm would be there. I know it's not right up there by that corner there. That building is a mile away on some different property, but if you're bouncing around, I'm zoomed in as much as I can, but you can see the corner of the soybeans up there with corn on two sides. That's the opposite corner of the farm. It's a square here. The farm is a square, half a mile in each direction, so it's a quarter of a section, or 160 acres. And we've got planted all the soybeans this year, minus the farm place and such in the lane. You can see the lane down there coming out to the road. And those trees that you see on down there are a mile away, so they're on the next farm. On there you can see the highway. So we'll see if we can get some video of harvesting and what's going on and try to explain it. Here's Skiles coming down a hill in a combine, and Malia's driving the tractor, pulling the grain cart. He unloads on the go into the grain cart, and then she comes and dumps it in the truck, and we haul it to town. Taking a swath 40 feet wide at the time, and using auto steer to drive it until her coming out. She should have unloaded as it came down the hill there ideally, but it doesn't work. Just stop and unload there because he needs to cut out along that waterway down there. He'll go on each side of the waterway and cut that out so he doesn't have to label it every time he comes up here. Here maybe you can see what I was talking about. He'll cut down on each side of this grass waterway, so then as he comes to it, you got a space here to raise the head up and drive through, and then let it back down on the other side without missing any soybeans. When you harvest soybeans, you can go any direction you want to. It doesn't matter. You don't have to follow the row. You can just go pretty much any direction, except it doesn't work to go absolutely perpendicular to the row, because then the sickle's trying to cut everything at one time. It'll slip the belt, but otherwise you can go any direction you want to go. Here he is coming back on the other side of the grass waterway. We leave some grass here in the bottom of the hill, so when it rains hard it doesn't erode and wash all the dirt away. The grass will kind of keep it from washing all the dirt away. See, we planted the soybeans in rows, about 30 inches apart each row. And that's what I say, we don't have to follow the row when we harvest. We'll go at a bit of an angle. When the soybeans the pods get dry and crunchy, just roll them and they pop right open, and the beans are hard and dry. Soybeans you can only harvest when it's dry. If you get some damp weather, then these pods get tough and it won't pop open, and the stems then are tough. It just doesn't work at all. But as long as the sun is shining, then you can go. So sometimes in the mornings we gotta wait. If there's a heavy dew, we've got to wait for the sun to come out, and a little bit of breeze. Doesn't take long, maybe an hour, and then we can go. And then in the evening when the sun goes down, depends on the weather, if it gets damp, we'll have to quit. Sometimes the wind blows all night, you can harvest all night, but soybeans are pretty sensitive to the weather that way, where corn is not. And we want to cut as low as we can because there's pods clear down low to the ground. I don't know, I'm not showing this very well. But there's pods all the way down low, so we want to cut it off as close to the ground as we can and take the whole thing in. And what we're trying to do is just get the soybeans out and leave everything else in the field. Yeah, that's what we're looking for. Little round soybeans. Because we want to cut close to the ground, we let the machine sense where the ground is at and adjust the head accordingly. So we set up 2 different positions on the head to when I push this blue button right here, it's going to go up to the upper position while I turn around, and then I just push it again and it goes back to the lower position and senses the ground. And as I turn, I'm going to push this button, which will tell it to take over the steering. See, I pushed it there and the head came up. And when I turn the steering wheel, I take over the steering. I'll turn around. And when I get most of the way around, I'll push the button to engage the auto steer. And it'll take over that, and then I'll push the button to, see here, I'll push the button now. And we'll straighten right up with the rope. It's doing the steering now. And I just push the other button that lets the head down to the ground. And we're back to cutting again. This lever here, you can see a number of buttons on it. As I push it forward, to go faster. And this one down here, I can adjust the height of the reel independently of the head. This one would raise and lower the head if I wanted to manually. But I'm letting the machine sense it, and so I don't have to do anything with that. Up here we have buttons to swing the auger out. You can see Malia's sitting up there with the wagon to unload here in a minute. I don't have the auger out right now. But when I push this button right there, the auger, you can see it in the mirror, it's coming out. You'll see it in the window in a second. There it is, ready to go. So in a minute, I'll push this button, the yellow one, and that'll start it unloading. There's the house down there behind those trees. There's the hoop building up there in the corner of the farm on the hill. She's got her auto steer set up, so it's going to drive a straight line right beside me. I'm going to push this button, and the grain's going to start flowing. There's the soybeans in the grain tank of the combine going down slowly as we unload them. There's a camera out on the auger here. I don't know if you can see it. I'll maybe get that later, but it shoots the video stream via Wi-Fi signal to a monitor in the cab that she can watch, so she can see as if she were sitting here looking right into the wagon, so she can tell what part's getting full. When it's empty like now, it's not so important, but as it gets full, you need to know whether you should dump in the front or the back so you don't run it over. Cutting out along the grass waterway like I talked a while ago, just to give me a place to raise up and down when I cross the waterway and go in the other direction. You'll see in a minute. So here I am coming up to a waterway, and I can raise it up here and skip over the grass waterway. Got a little room to do that now that I cut out that strip. off here, and then I got room here to click the button and let it back down. Start cutting again. I can't remember if I mentioned that Malia usually drives the grain cart. When I say drive the grain cart, I mean actually she's driving the tractor that's hooked to the grain cart, but we just refer to the whole thing as the grain cart. And the purpose of the grain cart is simply to transfer the grain from the combine, catch it on the go like we're doing here now, and take it to the truck at the end of the field. And saves the combine having to stop at the end and drive over to the truck and dump on it and then come back and get started again. You can just keep going, and the grain cart transfers it from the combine to the truck. Now here's a good example of the dust sometimes, which is rather makes it hard to see where you're going if you had to drive it. It's a big reason we have cabs on our machines. It's also part of the reason we use auto steer. When it's dusty like this, it'd be really hard to tell where you need to drive. It's hard to tell where you're at and where you need to be. It's pretty stressful. Sometimes we get beavers build dams in a creek over here and dam this up and flood all this area out here right where I'm driving. But I don't think there's any beavers in there this year. Kind of lucky. About every other year there'll be a beaver dam in here somewhere. Well, we just caught a dump off the combine and we're sitting here waiting for him to make a couple of rounds. We call it a round. Across the field and back is one round, and he can make a couple of rounds here before we have to unload again. So we just get to sit here and enjoy the peace and quiet and enjoy the sunset. Well, we're pulling into the crush plant here. I'm driving the truck today since we're doing one of Skiles' fields and he elected to drive the combine, so I'm driving his truck. Pulling in to the plant where we'll drop off the beans. I don't see much of a line at all today, so we're going to cruise right through here. A couple days ago when Skiles was here, there was like 60 to 70 trucks ahead of him in line that he had to wait for all those trucks to unload before he could unload. It took about an hour and a half or something like that. We'll stop at the probe first, and they'll take a sample, and then they'll weigh it, and we'll unload it. So this is a new facility. Last fall was the first time they were open for harvest last year. And so this is where they take in the soybeans and process them into soybean oil and soybean meal. You see these black train cars here will be loaded with soybean oil, and those grain cars there, I don't know if they're bringing in soybeans or taking out meal. I'm guessing they're taking out meal. The thing's sticking up there in the air right there is a probe. They'll stick that down in the truck and use vacuum to take about a quart of soybeans out that they'll use to test for moisture, and then we'll pull up to the scale. And I'll pull up here and onto the scale, and they'll get our weight, and then we'll go on down there and see where those trucks are, and we'll dump it. Just take a matter of minutes really to get through here. This is the scale right here we're pulling onto. 75,000 pounds. It says go to dump, we're good to go. That truck just pulled in there and stopped. We'll see how long it takes him to unload that truck. Right at 2 minutes to unload that truck, and he's out of here. Well, I just got unloaded. I'm pulling out. We're going to go around the corner here, there's another scale. We'll pull up onto and get an empty weight, and we're out of here. I think you've seen some clips of the other truck, Skiles' truck that we use. This one's the other one. This one's mine. My brother Dale drives it a fair bit at harvest time just to help us out. Gives him something to do. He kind of enjoys that. You probably saw all the material going in the front of the combine. So you know it takes a fair bit of horsepower, which in turn takes a fair bit of fuel. So we've got our own fuel truck to keep it supplied. The combine will burn about 20 gallons per hour, so it eats it up pretty fast. So we found this fuel truck on an internet auction a few years ago, 4 or 5 years ago, and got a heck of a bargain. We've had a little bit of rust issues in some of the skirting, so we patched that and had a kid helping us that summer, a friend of Skiles' from college who was studying auto body repair in college, so he knew how to paint, so he took advantage of that and had him paint it. And we put this decal on the back. So I thought it turned out pretty sharp. Makes a nice looking fuel truck. I just fueled up the tractor here. I think that took like 175 gallons to fill it up. So go through a fair bit of diesel fuel when it's harvest season. We got done with soybeans, so now we're doing corn. Everything's pretty much the same, except we put a different front on the piece on the combine here and call it the corn head. But everything works basically the same. Here you can see we've taken the bean head off the front of the combine and put the corn head on. It's actually quite easy to do. It only takes a matter of minutes. If I remember, I'll show you. That process only takes 3 or 4 minutes. But the corn head, each individual row, we've got these rollers underneath, and they turn opposite each other. These knives grab that stalk and yank it down real fast. But the ear is too big to go down through here. So it hits here and stalk gets pulled down, but the ear doesn't, it stays on here. And then these chains are moving that direction, taking the ears up into that auger, over to the center, and into the machine. Well, I'll try to give you some idea what's going on inside the machine. It's not all that complicated. I've taken off a panel off the side, just this white plastic panel. Hardly weighs anything. Goes up on there most of the time, but it gives you access inside here. We can see a little bit. I don't know how well you can see. The front here is over to our left. Material is all moving through from front to back, from left to right. And you see this round cage here. That surrounds a rotor, I believe it's 30 inches in diameter and I don't know, 8 or 9 feet long. And the cage on the outside is stationary. I don't know if you can see inside there a rotor with some aggressive looking feet on it, kind of. And that rotor will turn from 250 to 600 RPMs depending on the crop and the conditions. We can change that from inside the cab. And we can also adjust the distance between the cage and the rotor somewhat. We can adjust that partially. I want about an inch in between there roughly. Depending on, again, depending on the conditions and the crop, we can vary that. But the idea is the crop all comes in up here in the front, enters in here, and the rotor is turning laterally, I guess. And there are vanes fastened up here to the top angled, so that helps move the stuff through as the rotor spins. And it just simply rubs the kernels off the cob or the soybeans out of the pod. And then the grain falls through these down onto the pan, and the cobs or pods, whatever, that all continues to go out the back. This goes out the back of the machine. Then the grain, and you can see some other stuff, falls down here on a pan, but this pan is shaking like this all the time, so it moves that stuff back. And back there it's kind of the same thing, but and you can't see it real well, but those are kind of like fingers that we can stand up and lay down a little bit, rows and rows of them. And that's where we separate the grain from the chaff. There's a fan that blows up through there, so all the light material gets blown out. The grain is heavier and small, and it falls down through. It winds up in an auger down at the bottom. And now you can see the roller grabbing the stalks and pulling the stalks down. The ears are getting stripped off and taken into the machine. We're unloading some corn today at the co-op. You can see a big conveyor just dumping it in a big pile on the ground. Over here under the white is about 1.4 million bushels of soybeans, all piled up just like they did this with a conveyor. It's quite a pile of soybeans. Well, you can see a car down here for some relative size. The odd thing about that is that that is not enough to fill one ship. That's about 1.4 million bushels. It takes about 2.2 million bushels to fill one seagoing ship. And a 100-car train, you can get around 400,000 bushels, I think, in one train. So that's about 3.5 train loads there in that pile. If you imagine one semi hauls roughly 1,000 bushels, that'd be about 1,400 truckloads in that pile right there. We're not up to that yet on this pile of corn, but about a third of that here, I'm guessing. Now you can see them cranking the trap shut now. It'll be our turn. We'll drive up over the conveyor. We don't even have to get out. They open it up for us. This is an important point in harvest. So far, everything we've done up until this very spot has gone towards paying the expenses for the year. The rent, fertilizer, seed, herbicide, insurance, interest, machinery cost, etc., etc., etc. Well, we've reached a point where we've got that all paid for, and now from this point on, it's all pure profit. And we're done.